This is the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at www.thepmpodcast.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to episode number 137. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 8th of January, 2010. Nice to have you with us. Here's a quiz for you. What do projects and your brain have in common? Well, they are both very unique from other projects and other brains. They use soft skills and hard skills to work. And they all have a definite beginning and a definite end. I recently came across the book, Right Brain Project Management, and I was intrigued. It is written by Dr. Michael Aucoin from leadingedgemanagement.com. He calls it a complementary approach, and it is intended to help us project managers learn to use the right side of our brain better. When I originally got to read the book, I thought to myself, yeah, right. But then I found that Michael was making a lot of sense. And I found that I had instinctively implemented many of his suggested approaches on my projects. That was more than an excellent reason to bring Michael onto the program. In our interview, you learn about why we should use the right side of our brain in project management, how it helps our projects to be more successful, and how we can use the tools of emotion, pattern discovery, non-verbal communication, and intuition towards the same end. And as you may have guessed, because Michael is here to talk about the concepts of his book, we are of course giving away 2 copies to our listeners. As always, 1 copy is reserved for our premium listeners, and anyone who purchased the premium subscription is already entered into the drawing. And if you listen to the show on the free podcast, then all you'd have to do is to send an email. Please use BRAIN as the subject line in your email. Make sure that you send the email to me before January 18th, 2010, and then go ahead and send it to our new email address, which is info@pm-podcast.com. Yes, you heard me right. We are changing our email address to info@pm-podcast.com. And that leads me seamlessly to the next topic, and that's our new website. On January 15th, we are going to retire our old website at thepmpodcast.com and switch over to project-management-podcast.com. But because that is just way too much to type, you can simply type in pm-podcast.com into your browser and it will get you there. I'll put up a special episode about the new website once it is finished and officially launched. And now, the interview. Dr. Michael Aucoin is an internationally recognized leader in innovative approaches to the challenges of the high-velocity workplace. He provides training and consulting in project management and engineering management, drawing upon his extensive experience in diverse technology projects. Projects he has worked on have been recognized with the R&D 100 Award and the Outstanding Engineering Achievement Award. Dr. Aucoin has been a member of the Board of Governors of the IEEE Engineering Management Society and also served as their Vice President of Education. He has also served as a member of the B-241 Mishap Investigation Board with the NASA Johnson Space Center. Enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcasts feature interview. Today with Michael Aucoin, PE, PMP, President of Leading Edge Management and author of Right Brain Project Management.
Hello, Michael, and welcome to the Project Management Podcast.
Thank you, Cornelius, and what an honor to be here with you today.
It is an honor to talk to you. Thank you. You wrote the book, Right Brain Project Management, a complementary approach. I have it right here. It's a nice book. It's about 300 pages thick. It is a paperback. And I guess before we can open this book up, we should first take a look at our brain in general. So please remind us, what are the major differences here between the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain?
Sure. We humans have an absolutely amazing brain. It's estimated that there are more connections in the human brain than there are atoms in the universe. And the brain has two very different but complementary processing styles. We absolutely need both of them to function in this world. We have come to call these the right brain and the left brain. And let me contrast these in three different ways. First, the right brain creates or discovers knowledge, while the left brain applies knowledge using rules. If I'm out hiking in the woods, say that I'm on a marked trail using a guidebook with instructions, then I'm using the left brain predominantly. If I find myself all of a sudden out in the backcountry with no trail, no guidebook, no map, then I have to observe, I have to look for clues about direction, and I have to explore. Then that's an example of using the right brain. The second contrast would be that the right brain feels using emotion and intuition, while the left brain thinks using rationality, using logic. So the classic example of a left brain person might be Mr. Spock from Star Trek. To think about examples of what a right brain personality might be, you have to think about the gamut of human emotions. You might think of Oprah, for example, and at the same time, you also need to think about a football player or a soccer player after they score a touchdown or a goal. Think about them celebrating, because that's also a display of emotion as well. The third contrast would be that the right brain uses concepts and implied information, while the left brain uses very concrete information, facts. So the right brain uses things like metaphors and analogies and even those double entendres that people like to use so much. For example, if I were to say, Cornelius, it's raining cats and dogs outside, my right brain would understand that to be a concept that I'm trying to convey, that it's heavily pouring down rain outside.
Yeah, and I would have to tell you that you're absolutely right, because it is raining cats and dogs at the moment.
So my left brain is thinking, what's going on? Is there animals falling from the sky? So that's just some examples.
Okay, in project management, we often talk about hard tools and soft tools. Do these by any chance then map to the left side and the right side? Like the hard tools would be left brain and the soft tools right brain?
Certainly, the hard tools definitely map to the left brain, and that is the use of analysis using rules. So when we talk about things like tasks, durations, budget, earned value, we're using the left brain, and you can throw dependencies in there as well too. The soft tools do map to the right brain. We talk about soft skills, people skills, emotional intelligence, that sort of thing. But there's an important point to be made here, is that there is a crossover and a very heavy interaction between the right brain and the left brain. So there's a crossover in the application of these hard and soft tools. For example, if I am struggling as a project manager with some complicated resource leveling issue, I need to draw upon the right brain and its creative problem-solving abilities, even though I'm dealing with some seemingly left brain things like tasks and so on. On the other hand, if I'm addressing some complicated people issues, now we all know that people can be idiosyncratic and unpredictable. I'm sure you're not, Cornelius, but
Oh, no, not at all.
I certainly am. Nevertheless, there are some general left brain rules that apply to interactions with people. And so the left brain and the right brain are like the best partnership that you could probably think of. It's a wonderful marriage between the two. They work well together.
What in the end made you decide that you wanted to write a book about using the right side of your brain for project management?
A number of years ago, I had become somewhat jaded about project management in general.
I think that happens to everybody at some point, sooner or later.
Why are you laughing?
I've been there.
I had reached this point from personal experience, from talking with other project managers, and also looking at some of the really pathetic surveys that come out from time to time.
Yes.
That show how poorly project management performance goes in general sometimes.
Yes.
It really hit a turning point for me. I was teaching a short course. This was a project management fundamental short course, standard material. And one of the participants came up to me at a break and he said, Mike, what you're teaching here sounds really good in theory, but it just doesn't work in real life. And when he said that, it was really like a punch to the gut. And he was a smart guy, experienced project manager. But what I heard him say was really true. And I've heard it from a number of other people. It made me want to do something about it. One of the things that struck me was a contrast. We had the experience of professional project managers seeming to struggle with project management. But I could look around the world and see billions of people going about their everyday lives who were, in a sense, project managers themselves, doing their own projects, even if they didn't know they were projects, with no training in project management at all. A lot of their projects went quite well, actually. And it seemed to me that there's something hardwired into the human brain, something in our DNA that helps us to learn how to manage projects. Perhaps there was something there that could be used for us who are professionals. And I mean, even in a previous podcast, you held up Britney Spears as a model project manager. So I thought maybe there's something for everybody in project management.
All right. So, and you find then that the right side of our brain is it? That's what gives us the almost inborn ability to manage projects?
It's both the right brain and the left brain. But what really struck me was that the way that we were teaching and portraying project management as professionals was heavily left-brained. I mean, even looking at the PMBOK, and the PMBOK is an outstanding document. It is heavily left-brained. And I'm not knocking that at all in any way. And the left-brain approaches are important, they're critical, and they really apply to certain projects that are predictable and in a stable environment. A lot of the project managers I talk to, and I'm going to put myself in this category as well, deal with a more chaotic, crazy world in which things are not stable, not predictable. So we need some other kinds of tools, which just so happen to be right brain tools, to use creativity, pattern discovery, problem solving, and so on. And furthermore, I also found that all projects across the board could use a good dose of emotion to them, an emotional connection for people. And that is absolutely a right brain type of function.
I think you have just answered my next question as well. And that question would have been, why? Why should project managers use the right side of their brains more as they manage their projects?
It's sort of like this. Imagine that you have a car that you own. You've been driving it for a number of years. And all that time you thought you were driving, let's say, a Hyundai. Hyundai is a great car. One day you find out that it's actually a Maserati. And how would you react to that?
I would be rather surprised, to tell you the truth.
The dominant culture in the workplace stifles the right brain, stifles the use of the right brain. But I'm going to tell you a secret just between you and me, since it's just you and me talking here.
Yes.
That all project managers, all project teams use their right brains, perhaps not knowing so, but they do. It's just that the culture has so indoctrinated us not to use it. When we stifle the right brain, we are grossly underutilizing the processing power of the brain. not so much in the quantity of the operations, but in the quality. And we're missing out on a different processing style, much richer, valuable way of approaching the project. Think of any great work of art, like Michelangelo's Pietà. The left brain looks at it and sees a piece of marble with a woman holding a man, while the right brain experiences a whole range of emotions that go with looking at that image, whatever that may be, sorrow, love, dignity. So we can look at a project as a series or a collection of logical lines on a Gantt chart, and that is absolutely true. And we can also look at it in the right brain type of way as a living, organic endeavor of human ingenuity, even doing something great. They're both true. It's just that now we're throwing in a Maserati as well, too.
Okay, paint me a picture here, please. How does the right brain help me as a project manager and my projects to be more successful? And maybe you can go ahead and just throw in a case study into there as well from your own experience where right brain approaches have been used that made that particular project a success.
Sure. The big ways that the right brain helps has to do with creativity and flexibility and emotional connection. So the left brain approaches work absolutely great for stable and predictable environments, and also environments in which there's a heavy reporting requirement, a regulatory requirement, or safety is involved. For all those projects that are involving some ambiguities, some unknowns, perhaps a complex environment, maybe it has to be done aggressively or at high velocity, people need their environment to be flexible so that they can use creativity to solve the unknowns and adjust as conditions change. I'm talking not only about the content of the project, but also the team dynamics as well. Those are both important. With respect to the emotional connection to projects, in the workplace, we approach projects sometimes in an almost antiseptic manner, I think. We are very concerned with left brain objectives, and we should be. But what I have found in going through this book and the case studies is that projects proceed much better when we find some purpose and meaning in them with an emotional stake in the outcome. In large part because human emotion is practically a limitless fuel. When people decide that they really want to do something, there's no stopping them, or hardly anything will stop them. So one of the principles in my book is find the compelling purpose. Identify what it is that makes this project so important that I'm just going to drop everything to do it. Not something like, well, if I do this, then it's going to increase the stock share by 10 cents next quarter, because that doesn't really motivate people. It's something much more to that. In terms of, you also asked about some examples from personal experience. We had a project a number of years ago that involved improving public safety around electric power lines. And this was the development of a device, has some hardware and software associated with it. The compelling purpose was always known to the team, and that was to save lives or to help prevent injuries. So the team always had a strong emotional connection to the outcome. And just as a more direct example, in the short courses I teach or even presentations I give, I always talk about the purpose, why we are gathered there today. And if you're game, you and I can do it right now too. So let me ask you, why are we here today, Cornelius, you and I?
Well, I'm here because I have learned that the person who gets most, absolutely most, out of the Project Management Podcast is me. I have never learned as much as when I sit down with my interview guests and discuss the topic of the day with them. That's my driving motivator to do this.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, now we'll run through a couple of steps here, and I'm going to play the role of a 4-year-old.
Okay.
And my wife probably thinks that I play that quite well on a daily basis. But one of the ways that we can find a compelling purpose is to play the role of a 4-year-old. And a 4-year-old is great at asking why. And they keep asking why until they wear you out. We want to move beyond things like left-brain objectives and start reaching toward things that communicate motivation, communicate purpose. So if I ask you, why is it important to you to learn? And I'm going to broaden this a little bit as to why would your listeners want to listen to us having this chat today?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking myself as well sometimes. Well, there are some listeners out there who are doing it because of the PDUs that they can earn.
Right.
Because you can earn 15 PDUs for this.
Right.
There are listeners out there who are bookworms, and we're talking about your book here, Right Brain Project Management. Therefore, these people may want to hear more about what's in the book before they get it. There are people out there who are like me, who just enjoy a lifelong learning and being exposed to new concepts. So we've got those people. And then we may have people out there who are just, have been listeners of the Project Management Podcast for years. And to them, it's just the weekend ritual when they, Friday comes along and they plop in the Project Management Podcast and they listen to it.
Great. Those are all super reasons for doing this. So let me play the 40-year-old again. And let me focus in on the people who are getting the PDUs, for example. Why are getting PDUs important?
PDUs is important for these people so that they can retain their PMP or PGMP certificate.
Great. Why is that important? Why does PMI, for example, think that continuing education is important?
I believe the official statement is that by earning I gotta go there, that by earning PDUs and by continuously learning, we uphold the high standard that each project management professional should adhere to and strive towards.
Great.
Now, you know that we only have about 30 minutes for this to do, right?
Yes, I do. I'll cut it off here, or cut to the chase, rather. Where this is heading...
Yeah, I can see.
Besides wearing you out, is we're after things about looking for excellence, looking for service. And PMI holds us to these PDU requirements because continuing education is important for project managers to maintain excellence, to maintain service to their clients and customers. And to me, that's my purpose for being here today, is to be of service to you and to the listeners of this podcast, to help them do their projects in a better way, more rewarding way, and at the same time doing the same for their clients. And ultimately, it's about winning. It's about feeling good at the end of the day that we did a wonderful project, that we kicked some project butt, or whatever makes you feel good.
All right. Well, most product managers, as you said, they use their left brain, right? They want tools and techniques and things. So let's take a look at some of the tools that you suggest. And let's see, if I remember this correctly, these come from chapter 6 in your book, called Tools of the Trade, Working with the Right Brain. So let's take a look at maybe 3 of these tools here from your book, and you can give us your view, your thoughts on these. It starts out with emotion, and that particular part of the book is called Second That Emotion. So what's emotion all about, and why do I need it on my project? This is supposed to be unemotional.
And isn't that how you feel when you walk into the workplace? It's like, check your emotions at the front door.
Exactly.
The workplace culture, I think, tries to limit the healthy experience of emotion, or that's what happens because they're trying to eliminate any kind of dysfunctional emotions. But the fact is, human beings feel emotions throughout the day. We can't just turn them off. We're better off if we accept this and work with this. One of the ways to do this on a project is to look at the legacy of the project. It's the set of emotional memories that people are going to have about the project long after it's over. I have projects from my experience that I feel a lot of pride about. I have some others that I don't feel so good about. How do we want to feel at the end of the day? How do we want our clients to feel? It's an important consideration We tend to try to address it through objectives. I'm suggesting that we think a little bit bigger than that. There's a really great example of the power of emotion. And this one that I'm thinking about is the Sydney Opera House.
Yes.
It's on every postcard that comes from Australia, I think.
Pretty much.
It's a stunning structure, great tourist magnet, absolutely successful project, don't you think?
Yeah, but didn't they hate it in the very beginning?
Oh, they sure did, but most people have forgotten that. What happened was it was 9 years late, 14 times over budget. And I'm guessing that the project manager for that project was shot at dawn, probably several times. My point is that we get obsessive, and we're conditioned to be obsessive about things like tasks and durations and budgets and so on. But in the long run, what people remember is the emotions, the memories. Most people don't know anything about the budget for this, how the budget was blown. I'm not suggesting that we stop obsessing over the left brain stuff. I'm just suggesting that we start obsessing over the right brain stuff as well, the emotional legacy.
Okay. The next tool that we find in your book is pattern discovery. What is pattern discovery all about?
When we're faced with a novel situation, the left brain doesn't know what to do. It's trying to sort through its rules, and it doesn't find any. So it kicks it over to the right brain. And the right brain works with incomplete pieces of information, things that are disconnected, disjointed, etc. And it tries to make sense of it, looking for a new pattern. Sometimes we use creativity to do that, or insight. But I think the real unsung hero for the right brain is the use of metaphors or analogies. And someplace back in high school, probably in literature class when we were studying Shakespeare, that's when I kind of tuned out about metaphors, because Shakespeare's metaphors were kind of tough to understand. And I regret it now, because now I understand just how powerful the concept of metaphor is to the right brain and to our understanding. And the way it works is that we look at this novel situation, don't understand it, but we're trying to take some concepts from it and apply it to things that we already know and relate concepts, analogous concepts. It's an extremely powerful way that we make sense of new situations.
And lastly, the third tool we want to look at is close to the first one that we looked at, emotion. But this one here is now intuition.
Intuition is a fascinating topic, and it's very intimidating to people. We often dismiss it for that reason, but it's very real and valuable. And here's another secret. A lot of people in the workplace are using intuition all the time. They'll just never admit that they do it. What is intuition? It's the right brain processing vast amounts of information. The right brain is like a parallel processor, whereas the left brain is a sequential processor. It's like computer code. So the right brain is processing all this information pretty much in the background under the radar. And it's looking at things like images and pictures and feelings and metaphors and so on. And then it comes to a conclusion that it presents to us, sometimes as a feeling, sometimes as an image. And the really curious one is that sometimes it communicates as a sensation down in the torso. And that's because the emotional part of our brain, the nerves are wired into the torso. So the next time somebody tells you that they have a gut feeling about something, they do, in fact, have a gut feeling.
Yep, because that's down where it is. All right, so these were the three tools that we wanted to talk about here: emotion, pattern discovery, intuition. You also mentioned metaphors, and there are a ton more that you have in your book. Let me quickly go through them, a few of them here. There's creativity, tell the story. There's nonverbal communication, and there's also a chapter on striking the balance. Next, I would like to jump over to Twitter. Because before we started this interview, I put out a tweet telling people that I would be interviewing you on the Right Brain Project Management book. And Björn Bartelsson sent us a question for you. His Twitter ID is BBA747, and the 747 is in his name, in his ID, because he happens to be an airline IT project manager. He's a PMP. He's a frequent traveler, a wellness enthusiast, and passionate iTunes shopper. At least that's what his bio on Twitter says. So here you go, Michael. Here's his question for you. Please ask Michael how to apply right brain virtues if the performing organization has not even reached left brain project management maturity. Do you have something for him here? So what I understand is he works or puts out the situation where you work in a organization that has not yet reached a certain level of project management maturity, more focused on the tools and techniques, the left brain side. So how do you then apply these right brain virtues as a project manager in your daily work?
That's a great question, and thank you to Bjorn for sending that in. In some respects, I'm tempted to say that the situation he's describing is actually a better place to be, because in my experience, organizations that have gotten pretty far down the road in terms of the conventional maturity models tend to discount the benefits that can come from looking at the right brain side as well. It's almost like if you have a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail to you. And I think that having somewhat of a clean slate, and I wouldn't expect that his organization is entirely like that, but to some extent, that it's a good place to be. The projects that I profiled in my book, the case studies, were all situations where teams were given the ability, either formally or informally, to use whatever worked for their situation. And if left brain techniques work, left brain tools work, then by all means use those. If they need more heavily right brain tools or techniques, then use those. I think you can approach both at the same time. And I think that's a good way to approach this as well for him. And once again, thanks for sending that question in.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Bjorn. All right. Here's my final question for you, Michael, and it goes into a very similar direction where Bjorn was going, but I'm going more towards the organization that has all of these methodologies and policies and processes in place that just need to be followed. Because in many places where I have worked, we were up there with the project management maturity. We had handbooks, we had methodologies, we had templates. Everything was laid out for the left brain for us. Do you have a couple of tricks for our listeners out there, many of whom will be in the similar situation where, everything is laid out for you? How can they include right brain approaches in these prescribed and often very rigid environments where it just says you must fill in this form before you can move on to the next step, period?
Sure, absolutely. The little game that you and I played a little while ago is one way of doing that. And it doesn't take much time, and it's playing the role of a 4-year-old to find the compelling purpose. Ask why the project is important, and try to get at some things that have to do with excellence and service to others, and about even winning. This has to be something that's genuine and unique to the team. It can't just be some meaningless punchline on a leadership poster. So that's one example. Another is to also be comfortable with acceptable sloppiness. I love that phrase.
That's great. I've never heard that before.
We need to keep rules that are absolutely necessary, and that's going to vary probably from project to project. In some environments, you're going to need to have some pretty strict rules in place, things that are regulatory in nature. Wherever possible, we need to ruthlessly eliminate all the other rules, the micromanagement kinds of things, because they stifle creativity and trust. We need to give teams room to breathe and explore, and we'd be really amazed at the results. One of the common reactions that I get from people who have either read the book or heard one of my presentations was they'll come up to me after a presentation and say, I've been doing this kind of stuff that you're talking about. I've been doing it for years and have found it to be successful, but everybody told me that it was wrong and to stop doing it. So then they would say, thank you for validating it. And I'm suggesting do what works. A lot of project managers actually sort of act in two different ways. They do the left brain stuff when they have to. They do the right brain stuff as it feels comfortable to get things done. We can also look at a lot of the left brain tools and techniques as vehicles to do some right brain types of work. In the book, there's a great sidebar from Carl Pritchard, and many of your listeners will probably know him. And he talks about how every project and even every task on a project is like an entrepreneurial company. It's an opportunity to do something great and for people to be CEOs of their little domains. He also suggests that all these forms, all these checklists that we kind of grudgingly go through, be used as opportunities to develop conversations or communication. Nobody likes to go talk to the accountant about earned value. But if we use it in a proactive way, go talk to the accountant and have a nice chat, develop some camaraderie in the process. We're doing a lot of right brain work at the same time we're talking about left brain things.
All right. Fabulous stuff. Michael, thank you so much. Once again, the book is called Right Brain Project Management, a Complementary Approach. It's written, obviously, by Michael Aucoin, and it is published by Management Concepts. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by today and talking to us about right brain project management. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been really a treat to visit with you, Cornelius. Thanks for having me.
And that was our interview with Michael Aucoin on his book, Right Side Project Management. Don't forget, if you would like to win a copy of this book, then please send an email to our new email address, info@pm-podcast.com, and put BRAIN into the subject line. Send it to me by January 18th, 2010. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. At this point, let me, once again, ask for that one small favor that I keep asking about. Please go ahead and tell just one person today about the Project Management Podcast. As always, but only for a limited time, you can find us on the web at thepmpodcast.com. If you are a project manager who wants to become a PMP, then the easiest way to do so is with our sister podcast, the PM Prepcast, and study for the exam by watching over 38 hours of video training from pmprepcast.com. Please send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com, and when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. It's a quote that we should all remember when it comes to how to involve our project teams, customers, and sponsors. Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may remember. Involve me and I'll understand. Until next time.
I heard you had sort of a cold spell there in California not too long ago.
What do you mean not too long ago? Right now! It's bloody freezing! I'm sitting here at my desk in my fleece jacket and warm pants and shoes and thick socks. I look outside, it's raining and there's fog in the hills and I didn't move to California for this.
Well, you should be an old hand at that kind of weather coming from Switzerland.
I'm a wimp.
I love it.